She went overseas chasing dreams, ambitious, successful, unstoppable. Then one day, she vanished. And when she was found, it was too late. Do parents truly have the power or the support to protect their children overseas? Can we blame the system, or could we do more? A mother's heartbreaking story. For Naina, with love. Watch Vandana Luthra in conversation with Renuka on our social handles and on our app, Radio Masti 24/7, as we go live on Masti AVI on 9th October, 6:30 p.m. Singapore time onwards. It's called Behind the Smile, Unspoken Letters. Because every smile has a story. A special initiative by Masti Media Network Singapore, supporting World Mental Health Day.
Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Masti AVI. My name is Renuka, and as you've been hearing online as well as on our show on Tuesday, I mentioned that we have this week two special episodes on Masti Media Network Singapore, which is to create awareness this World Mental Health Day. That's tomorrow, October 10th. The episode one, which you watched on Tuesday, was with Wing Commander Sabharwal, and you can still catch that conversation on our app under the Masti AVI tab. This year, we are focusing on those who often go unseen, the caregivers, the ones who stand closest to those in pain, and they live on. Today's story, it's one that truly brings that to life. Some stories are just too painful to tell, and yet too important to stay untold. This is one of them. She was bright, ambitious, unstoppable. A young woman who left home to study abroad, chasing her dreams with every step. She had big plans to lead, to love, to build a life that made her family proud. And then one day, she disappeared. Calls went unanswered, messages stopped, and by the time she was found, nothing was the same again. Today, we're not here to sensationalize her story, but to understand it, to ask questions we all must. Do parents really have the right or the support to protect their children overseas? Could the system do more? Could we do more? This is Behind the Smile, Unspoken Letters, a story of love, loss, strength. A story of love, loss, strength, and lessons no parent should ever have to learn the hard way. I'm Renuka, and today we honor Naina's memory by listening to the voice that knew her best, her mother, Vandana. For Naina, with love. Vandana, first of all, thank you so much for being with us here today. I know this is not easy to reopen wounds and share a story that is so deeply personal and painful. But by doing so, you're giving strength to so many parents who may be silently facing similar fears or struggles. And I'm thankful to you for that.
Thanks, Renuka. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you Naina's tragedy. I'm here today because people don't know what is psychosis, how it manifests itself, and they don't know that untreated psychosis could be fatal. I didn't know either. Had I known, Naina would have been alive today.
So today, through Behind the Smile, Unspoken Letters, we want to honor Naina's memory. And we also understand, to understand from a mother's heart what it means to watch your child chase dreams overseas and the challenges that can come with it. Uh, when you think of Naina today, Vandana, what is the first image that really comes to your mind?
It's not so much an image, it's the thought that I live with every day. And the thought is, I failed her. As a parent, your first responsibility is to protect your child. And I couldn't. It doesn't matter what efforts I put in. The bottom line is, I failed her. And it doesn't matter whether she was a teenager, a young adult, less than 18, or more than 18. You're a parent for life, and you'll do whatever it takes to protect your child forever. And I couldn't do it.
How would you describe Naina beyond her struggles as a daughter?
She was very caring, very loving. She made these birthday cards for me every year with her own hands, even at the age of 21. We were very close. We would talk every day or at least every other day. So when she disappeared, it was just shocking.
And about her friends, how was she with her friends? How would they describe her?
Full of joy, extrovert, ambitious, intelligent, just supremely meticulous and organized.
And as she was so meticulous, so organized, she must have also had her hopes and ambitions. So, what were they? Did she mention?
Oh, yeah, yeah. She had achieved so much in her very short life. She had a resume that ran over 2 pages because she had done just so much in terms of activities, in terms of leadership positions in her school and college clubs, volunteering, part time jobs. And she had a very strategic mind. She knew way back then, when she was in 11th grade, that she wanted to be a consultant with McKinsey. She didn't know, though, that her brain wouldn't support her.
Everything that you say about Naina, it sounds so normal. And I use that word because I feel a daughter close to the mother, making birthday cards, spending time with friends, being remembered as somebody who was happy, a good friend, and also had ambitions. Then what? Then what happened? What were these small changes, the behavior, the thinking, or communication? What exactly was that? When did you realize that something is not right?
It was the summer of 2021. She was with me in New York. And I could see she was very stressed, very sensitive, even about the smallest of things. She was meditating for too long and just too often. And I couldn't understand what was the stress all about, because by then she had already got her job in McKinsey. She was all set to graduate early with top honors. So I couldn't understand what's troubling her. Of course, today, looking back, I can see so clearly that her very difficult time that started in 2021 was because of her psychosis.
So, when you saw her struggling with something, how could you, as a parent, really know whether this was normal growing up, facing the world kind of challenges that she might be thinking about, or it could be something more serious? How could you, as a parent, differentiate between that? Could you?
No, it was very hard. So as I told you, in 2021, all I saw was stress and worry. And there was no estrangement at that time. So I just thought it's a phase that'll pass. But it's very, very hard. And these mental illnesses, they actually do start manifesting very early on, and you don't realize so. Again, today, looking back, I can see clearly that Naina's problems started way back in 11th grade, she was, and she used to complain a lot about these pains and aches. And Like any normal parent, I took her to the physiotherapist and the chiropractor, and they said, it's all that bad posture, long hours on the laptop, and all kids these days have these kind of pains and aches. For her jaw pain, the dentist said she's clenching her teeth too often in the night, so get a mouth guard made. Then it was December 2019. She was 19 that time, and she said she wanted an MRI of her back. So that was done. And the orthopedic doctor said there's nothing there, but take her to the rheumatologist. And the rheumatologist said, it's fibromyalgia. She cannot do boxing ever again. Naina loved boxing. She was very upset. And she just promptly ignored the advice and continued boxing. And she was wake surfing, and she was going on these long, strenuous hikes. She was so active, and I just wouldn't understand, where does the pain disappear when she's busy doing all these activities?
Yeah.
Obviously, at that time, I didn't know it was a psychiatric disorder. It's just like everyday normal stuff, which had started right in 11th grade. And it was possible to see those signs at that time.
Because sometimes we also kind of look at, children growing up in today's environment, they have all sort of pressure. These are, they are teenagers, and we know about how different they are in certain phases. Uh, so at what point did you feel that she had started distancing herself from you? And uh, what was the reason, for example, that she was just not connected with you?
Yeah, the distance started after the 2021 New York trip. She wanted to do family therapy, and I couldn't understand what is the need for this family therapy. But I had started to get some sense that she was trying to say that you've been a bad mother and you've not cared for my feelings. And I was at my wits' end about the stupidity of all these allegations. And then the distance kept widening, and I said, all right, yes, we'll do the family therapy. But she kept dilly-dallying. And then she wanted a lump sum money for her rent deposit for her apartment in New York. And I said, yeah, okay, take the money, don't be stressed, and let's get on with the family therapy.
Yeah.
But that she got the money, and that is when, she just cut off all contact. And that was the most foolish thing I could ever do, because it was like I'd literally laid out the path for her to walk away. So it was, obviously, looking back, I can just never forgive myself for that.
So let's go back. We know that Naina passed away last year around this time in October. If we go back 2 years prior to 2024, tell us more about what did she go through? What were the changes that you observed, or what really happened?
So Nana passed in October 24, and she had cut off contact with me. So those 2 prior years of her life, I got to know of them only after she passed, and I opened her laptop and her phone. And that is when I realized that she was psychotic, severely psychotic. She had these voices in her head telling her to kill herself, and she had all these delusions that, her family had been sexually abusing her and everybody in her family. And it started way back when she was just 6 months old. And she was sharing all of this with her very close group of friends, these 4, 5 girls who all knew me, but she told them to cut off contact with me. And then I also learned that she had been seeing therapists, and they also just believed her delusions. They didn't do anything to challenge her reality, do any cross references, or check anything with family involved. They didn't even check that she had a family history of schizophrenia. And she had also consulted a pulmonologist, a neurologist. They also ignored all her early warning signals of schizophrenia. She had these sensitivity to light and sound, and she had these feelings of insects crawling under her skin. But all of this was just ignored because there was no family involved. And I also learned that she was with Mackenzie for just a year, and during this entire year, she was on disability leave. Obviously, after Nana passed and we read all this during on her phone and laptop, it was so traumatic because she was clearly struggling and there was just no right help available for her.
So, you mentioned that there was this money which was transferred to her, right? And then after that, she kind of just went away. She just estranged from the family, right? So, what did you do? Did you kind of let her be because you felt that she needed that space, or were you really trying to look for her and kind of trace her and track her? And could you really find her? Did you know where she was?
So I wasn't actively seeking for her till I got to know just by chance that she had left New York and moved to London. That's when I realized that something has to be very, very wrong because if she could leave her dream job in her dream city, then something has to be very wrong. And that's when I actively started searching for her. And I did a lot. I hired a private detective. I appealed to McKinsey in the US. In London, I appealed to the police, the Indian consulate, the missing persons charities, the lawyers who specialize in conservatorships, Nana's friends' parents, the neighbors, landlords, and even the psychologist who I had known earlier she had met. But nobody helped. It was as if the whole universe had conspired to not let me get Nana. And even before that, while I was not actively searching for her, but when she first got off contact with me, I promptly got myself enrolled in therapy because I thought it's best to get professional knowledge or professional understanding on how to connect with Nana. But the psychologist said, do nothing, work on yourself, heal from your own traumas. That was just so wrong. It was the worst advice I would ever get in my life. I didn't know anything about psychosis. My family didn't know anything about psychosis. And the few friends that I was confiding in, they didn't know. And the psychologist not even once mentioned that possibly Naina's extreme isolation could be because of mental illness.
Yeah.
So, 2024 was the worst year of my life, a year that I did not sleep, a year that I lost Naina.
And I'm so sorry about, and thank you again, Vandana, for really agreeing to go through this pain because you do want to convey a message. You do want to share that there are ways that we could behave better, we could learn better, we could observe better, and therefore we could save somebody and a family from going through what you have been through. And I really wish no mother, no parent, and no child should be going through something that you have. Uh, do you think the system, the medical, the legal, the social, really failed you?
Everybody failed her. Mental illnesses typically have all this stigma to them. But Naina's story is not about stigma. She was a help seeker. She was a diligent, determined help seeker. She had consulted all these therapists and the doctors that I mentioned to you. But nobody was looking at her holistically. Nobody had the complete picture on her. Everybody was believing her delusions. And, she just, it's like she just fell through the cracks because of the incompetence of the therapists who she had seen, the ignorance of the friends who were supporting her, the apathy of the parents I had reached out to, and all these draconian privacy laws of McKinsey in the US. and the police in London. It's just, it's that's why in the last 1 year, all I've done is read how mental health is actually to be taken care of, or how people with mental illnesses, how do they actually get supported? Because Nana didn't have that.
You know what I feel is that one, of course, it's the stigma, but in your case, you never considered that as a stigma. You were willing to step out and help and also reach out, right? Even enrolling yourself in therapy to understand how to connect with her was a big step. That was acceptance. And in Nena's case, she was she was aware that she was not normal. Her thoughts were kind of troubling her and she was seeking help. But I just feel it's really a pity that although she approached the right people, they could not help her. So, what changes do you think we should be bringing about, we should be talking about? How do we treat mental health in young adults?
Yeah, that's the most important question, and this is what I have been doing last 1 year. As I said, I've read a lot on this. So I was hearing Thomas Insel on a podcast. Thomas Insel is he's an American neuroscientist and a psychiatrist, and he led the National Institute of Mental Health for many years. And he says on this podcast, we've got to make mental health care providers accountable.
Yes.
What I've learned is that therapy in the private practice is one of the most unregulated parts of mental health care. We've got to get them to understand, the therapist especially, that family involvement is essential in the care. And it's not about foregoing the privacy rights of the patient. Mental illnesses don't get cured by just an hour long weekly sessions. The family needs to provide the overall welfare of the patient. And again, I'll repeat, it's not about foregoing the privacy rights. It's about helping the patient and also making as robust a diagnosis as possible so that the most appropriate care can be provided. And to make that robust diagnosis, the therapist or the psychiatrist, they need a baseline. That baseline can come from the patient, but it also has to necessarily come from the family, because no one knows the family, no one knows the patient better than the family.
Yep.
So you can see in Naina's case, she was presenting herself very well. And unfortunately, her delusions were very realistic. Of course, we know can be bad families who can do horrible stuff to their children. But you still got to understand from the family about what's going on, and maybe in Naina's case, somebody from the extended family. But nothing of that sort was done. There is no family involvement, and then you cannot provide the most appropriate mental health care.
I am in agreement with you 100%, and it is a matter of debate that adults or young adults beyond the age of 18 have the right to keep their their medical issues to themselves, and the doctors are under the guidelines not to reveal as well without their permission. So definitely what you're saying is that mental health issues have a past, and it's not enough in their case to really just rely on the information which is given there, and what it can really lead to, right? It's not something as simple as just resolving an issue or a physical challenge. This could have long term impact, and we've seen what happened in Nena's case. uh, there's a message, I'm sure, that you have to the caregivers of children with mental health issues, the parents. What would you like to say to them?
I think I'll put this in two parts. The first one, for parents, especially in Asia, and I think a lot of Indian parents. The first thing is that it's not your fault. Serious mental illnesses like bipolar and schizophrenia, they're
Yeah.
not caused by bad parenting or neglected or tiger parenting. It's the brain biology and the genetics. Just like cancer and diabetes happens because something is not right in your brain, similarly, sorry, not right in your body.
Body.
Similarly, the mental illnesses, and again, I'm not talking about general mental wellness, I'm talking about serious mental illnesses. These are caused by something not right in your brain.
Mm.
And I cannot stress enough about this because in my own family, people who care for me deeply also believe that Naina's illness was because of the difficult childhood and the divorce in the family, even though they know how well my children have been taken care of and how happy their childhood was and how privileged it was. So I'll just repeat, it's not your fault. You need medical attention. And the second thing I would say is, especially for parents in Asia, like somebody like me who sent Naina abroad to study, if you see something is off, even if you have the slightest indication of something is off, get your child back home. Policies, the part that I told you earlier that I've read a lot on this last 1 year, I've learned that the policies over there, both in the US and UK, the policy requirement is that, or let's put it this way, the medical literature, what the medical literature says, it says that mental illnesses require early intervention and mental illnesses require connected care. That is,
Yes.
the therapist and the psychiatrist and the family working together. But practically, it's not done, it's not implemented. So, for the parents, please get back your children as soon as possible. And of course, I have a question for the policymakers in the US and UK. All this focus on privacy, when a young adult falls ill with psychosis, who is actually looking after this young adult?
Yeah. Absolutely. And there are no answers to that because there are welfare associations, but they would just, it is more of a lip service, as I understand, the way things are done because they are doing it as a duty. It's not their responsibility. If they go and check on an adult, a young adult, and they feel the person looks normal, they're not going to dig deeper because they're not family, they're not a parent. And that's where the slip happens. And one such slip happened in Nena's case. Similarly, the young people, sometimes they do not interact enough with the parents. We try to keep a tag on what they're doing, who their friends are, how their life is, and they can also be very secretive. But what would you like to say to them? Since you've met Nena's friends, you know so much more now.
Do a mental health first aid course. It would give you the practical skills and knowledge to recognize and respond to someone in mental health distress. If Naina's friends had done this course, or maybe if Naina herself had done this course, these girls would have known that voices in the head is a cause for immediate concern. Maybe Naina could have been alive today.
Yeah, and I agree with that. These are situations just around us, Vandana. We all are offered first aid courses. We're offered fire drill courses. We're offered things which can impact the body, but we never talk about mental health courses offered in schools or in offices. So, what message would you have for the society as a whole? Is there something you'd like to say?
Yeah, I think I'll just repeat what Jenny wrote on her social posts. Jenny is the author who wrote Naina's article in The Guardian.
Yeah.
She said this was not just about trauma and mental illness and family estrangement. It was also about the duty we have to each other in a culture where we respect people's boundaries. I think Jenny's message is very powerful. They say it takes a village to raise a child and a community to save one. For Naina, I could never give her the community because there was so much focus on privacy and boundaries that everybody forgot about her safety. We've got to choose safely between boundaries and another human desperately asking for help. If we don't, a life can be lost.
Yep. There is so much to learn from what you've been through. I cannot imagine, Vandana, and as I was saying to you before we started the show, how do you keep going? There's been so much happening around you, and the loss that you've been through. I cannot have enough words to even ask you to move on, to be strong. I just cannot imagine. How do you really keep going after this loss?
We all have to find our own path. And for me, I have watched dozens of TED Talks on grief, and there was one that made a lot of sense to me. The speaker said that we all have a manuscript of our lives, and in this manuscript, we tell stories of our experiences and our hopes for the future. And when a loved one dies, it's like this manuscript is shred to pieces, and grief is about rewriting that manuscript. So that's what I'm doing. I am rewriting my life. And in this new life, mental health advocacy is the purpose.
And I'm sure that is benefiting a lot of people out there. Sooner or later, it's it's going to come back to you in a very positive way because you're doing so much for the community out there. And you know how it is for humanity, for saving a life, for saving a child, for guiding parents. That's a very big and a very significant role that you're playing. If I may just take a moment, Vandana, to read out the messages to you here. Lena saying, so sorry to know of your sad story. May your daughter's soul rest in peace. Um, there's a regular listener, Sapna, who's watching with us right now. She says, I agree, the therapists do not disclose anything to the parents and end up, the parents will never understand the trouble the youngster is going through. So I believe people are absolutely in agreement. I have a couple of questions, if that's okay with you. May I?
Yeah, sure, sure. Please go ahead.
Okay. This one is, what was Naina like as a child? Any special memories or habits that always make you smile when you think of?
Yeah, I'll tell you about an incident. It was April 2020. I had a big fall in my house. And for 2 days, I was on the bed with the ice packs, and the swelling was not going down. And then had been calling me regularly since the fall happened. And 2 days had passed, and she again said, Mom, how are you doing? And I said, the swelling is not coming down, and I don't want to go to the hospital because there is this virus. COVID was on at that time, Hong Kong, this lockdown. And Naina just did not put the phone down after that till she saw I had got ready and I was getting ready. I was almost getting into the taxi. It's at that time she finally put the phone down. And I reached the hospital, and the doctor said, I need immediate surgery. And he said, but what have you been doing? Where were you all this while? Because he asked me, when did this happen and all that. I said, no, I wasn't coming till my daughter forced me to come. And he was like, thank God, you've got such a sensible daughter. I said, yeah. So I cannot, there's so many more incidents and I can't go all over them, but She was my pride and joy.
And I'm sure she will continue to make you proud. Vandana, you yourself are saying, don't hold yourself responsible to parents, right? And how did you start this conversation? By saying that you failed her. No, you did not fail her. Look at what they're saying. We admire your positivity and your new mission of mental advocacy. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree what you're saying. Perhaps I could have done more. Maybe when I was in London and the police said, sorry, we will respect her human rights. Maybe I should have never boarded the flight back from London. I should have just stayed there right in front of the police station on the road. And I said, no, I'll not leave. See, I have reflected on this 1,000 times in my head, and I'll never stop doing that. And I can tell you there are 1,000 more things that I could have done, and I didn't do it.
Well, there are always questions. Unfortunately, not all questions have answers in life. And I can tell you, everybody out here totally appreciates your being here, you talking to us, for your strength, your honesty, for sharing a story that no parent should ever have to tell, but every parent needs to hear. So thank you so much, Vandana, for being with us today. It's I cannot say that this show is this conversation is something which I would want to do again ever. It's not been easy for me to have this conversation, and I cannot imagine how tough it must be on you. But thank you so much. Any last words before we let you go?
Safety has to come before privacy and boundaries. Family involvement in mental health care is essential, and social isolation needs immediate attention because youth safety and suicide prevention is our collective responsibility. I could say so much more, but I'm conscious of the time. But thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Vandana. And this is for Naina with a lot of love. Naina's journey, it reminds us that behind every smile there can be a silent cry. That while our children chase dreams far from home, they still need our eyes, our ears, our support, and sometimes just our gentle questions. Maybe, and really, in Naina's case, we cannot change what's already happened, but we can change what happens next by being more aware, more connected, and more prepared. To every parent listening here, talk to your children. Ask the uncomfortable questions, look for the signs. And to every young person chasing dreams abroad, please know you are never, never alone. This is Behind the Smile, Unspoken Letters. I'm Renuka, and I hope today's conversation starts many more in homes, in hearts, and in policies, because no story like Naina's should ever have to repeat itself. Tomorrow is World Mental Health Day, and I do hope that you will all give this a little thought. Look around you. Does anyone need help? Do you need help? Please don't hesitate. Accept, move on. Mental health is serious. It's a fact, and it's here to stay. Have a fantastic evening, guys. Stay tuned to Radio Masti 24/7 because we make sure we keep you smiling. Take care.